Hello, Scott Wonder here from Wonderwoods. Welcome to another Wonderwoods video. We are in the middle of building cabinets for a showroom in New York. I introduced that in the last video, so you can kind of see I went up there to go do some measurements, get ready to go on the job. We'd already started working on some parts, but I need to go up there and measure for some of the cabinets that fit into tight spots. We need to make sure that those measurements were accurate. A few things we had started building already fit into a metal room and didn't have to do anything except for hit some measurements that were on the drawings. These units, this was one of them. This was one of them that was already built before I went up to New York to measure. And it's been in the shop for a little while, built like this. So when people come in, they see this and they say, wow, that looks nice. And they're responding to two things. One, that I think it's well built, but mostly they're seeing the plywood and the riffs, it's riffs on white oak, and they're seeing that and they think, well, that looks really nice. And then we end up talking about the wood. And we're using 3 different kinds of plywood in this job for different reasons. I thought it'd be fun to talk about it. So this wood right here for this unit is all riffs on white oak. It gives you really straight grain. There won't be any, there shouldn't be normally any cathedrals like this. This is maple plywood, but anything like this, anything swirly, most of it's really straight. So that's the riffs on white oak, and this particular product is an MDF core. So we don't love MDF core because it's heavy. The MDF is probably, feels like it's 3 times as heavy as a normal sheet of plywood. I don't know it's that heavy because I'm holding them here. It doesn't feel that much heavier, but it's definitely heavier, so it's just harder to work with. It's also dustier because it's already thin, small dust particles that they glued up to make this. But the reason they use it for the higher grade plywood, in this case it's higher grade plywood, it's expensive, is that it gives them a really flat sheet to put the veneer on. Because a normal plywood like this maple plywood that is made of veneer layers of cut wood, they're cut and sliced, they're cut and alternated in grain to give you the structure. But since it's all wood, when they go to put this thin layer of veneer, which is really thin, like a 32nd of an inch or less, on the outside of it to make it look pretty, it doesn't sit totally flat. It'll, from a distance after you finish it, it'll have kind of ripples in it. Still looks nice, but to be very picky about it, you're gonna have ripples in your plywood. So to avoid that, they do MDF core. The plywood that we love the most is this walnut. Not just walnut, but this happens to be walnut we're using for another part of the job. The walnut has, this is double thick. We just glued 2 pieces up to get the thickness we needed. But it has a veneer core, which is multiple layers of alternating grain wood in the middle. And then they put a thin layer of MDF on the outside, which gives you the nice flat surface to put the veneer on. So this plywood is called combi core. This plywood we love. It's not super heavy, the sheets sit super flat, and they just finish really nice. They're not, like I said, they're just perfect all around. They are a touch heavier than a normal veneer sheet, but they give you all the qualities you want out of a fantastic sheet. So that's the walnut. I would normally, if we could, order this white oak, this riffs on white oak, in the combi core as well, but this was all that was available from our supplier at the time. Still works fine, there's nothing wrong with it. The doors lay nice and flat, fronts that we make, but it is just heavy. So if I could choose not to use this, I would choose not to use it. The other plywood that we're using is this UV maple. We're using that for all the interiors of the cabinets. So you open this up, can't see it very well, but the insides of all these boxes are maple veneer. We use the maple veneer plywood commonly for the inside of boxes. It's nice and light in color, it's bright, it's clean, and it works well. It is not, the finish on it doesn't have to be perfect, meaning as far as ripply, because you can't really see it on the inside of a cabinet. So this sheet is all layers of veneer plywood or veneer wood cut thin, and then they put a thin veneer of the maple on the top. But that they finish it at the factory, it's UV dried, goes through a dryer with UV light on it that makes it dry really fast. So it comes pre-finished, and you can order it in one-sided, which this is, finished on one side unfinished, or you can order it two-sided. This unit right here is going in the conference room. It's going to have 2 refrigerators, tall units, big units, right here and right here. The refrigerators basically just slide into the opening. And then they're going to use this for samples, just multiple drawers. They're going to have different color samples and things like that in there to show the fridges. So when we cut this plywood, it's got an exposed edge that has no wood on it. So we use this iron-on veneer right here to make it look like wood. It is wood, it's just not wood in the middle. At fancier places, they have a machine for this. We don't do a ton of it. We just iron it on and trim it by hand. It's hot glue on the back. So all you gotta do is heat it up, iron it down, while it's cooling down, do a little bit of this. Roll the edges a little bit so it really pushes the outside down. This area here is where Tom's been working. He has built, these are upper cabinets for the kitchen. They don't have the fronts on them yet. They are maple plywood for the interior. They are edge banded on the fronts with white oak, because they're going to get white oak fronts. And then the shelves, which are going to be totally hidden in the cabinet, are edge banded with the maple. He's been hanging out here, made his own little space. And obviously got a bunch of cabinets going. Making himself right at home. Hidden behind Tom's kitchen cabinets are the bar cabinets Tom made. These are walnut veneer plywood, and they have some cute little brass rods that go in there. These are all fit together. He just moved these back here to get ready for finish. They are the veneer core plywood with MDF layer and then a thin layer of walnut on the front. Tom, on these, glued up double thick on the plywood to make this 1.25 inches. He took one layer to the sander to sand it down to a 1/2 inch. So when he glued the 3/4 and the 1/2 inch together, he got 1.25 inches thick, which was called for from the designers. And then he actually made thin veneer, glued lumber on the front of this, trimmed it off to make a thin veneer for the 1.25 inches for the fronts of these units. They are going to get, these are upper cabinets. They're going to go on some other bases that have yet to be put together. Here in Jeff's area, we've got another unit built. This goes in the conference room as well. More riffs on white oak with maple interiors and white oak doors. We also have in here, around the corner here, the rest of the kitchen, all the cabinets that are going together. Over here we've got the drawers for the kitchen cabinets. ready to start assembling those or putting the whole thing together. So pretty soon we are going to have, we're going to be on to finishing pretty soon. We've got to make the panels for the fronts of the cabinets. So we're missing basically the drawer fronts and the door fronts. But after that, we're going to be on to finishing. So here we go.